needs to calm down. It's a horrific garbage bill, as I've been telling you. They're just voting. It's already passed in the House and Senate. The House still voting on the spending package to avoid the government shutdown. Has the votes, both houses. It's passed. It'll head to the president's desk. A garbage, compromise, swamp, border security bill will make its way to the president. The bill is awful. A president knows it's awful. We're going to give you the whole behind the scenes as to what was going on, as to what relates to this new 7-month spending extension. And in moments, I'm going to explain exactly why it happened this way, and I will explain exactly how the president will get funding for the wall and what's in store for you. Has the president kept all his other promises? There is a method to this, and at the end of the day, is it better that the wall get built? More coming up. We have a monologue later in the program just on that. First, we have big breaking news. Hannity watch on the deep state. This is where we begin tonight with something that should shock and alarm every single American. And I don't care if you're liberal, conservative. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Doesn't matter. Or conservative as I am. We were right. I have been sounding the alarm on this program with a team of investigative reporters for over 2 years. And now today, more confirmation than we ever thought we'd have that we are dealing with, yes, a deep state and what is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in the history of this country. We now have disgraced, and by the way, now being investigated, fired FBI director, former deputy director Andrew McCabe, back in the news. Remember last year, the deep state Trump hater was fired for lack of candor. Well, where I grew up, that's called lying. Now, the Bureau found that he was constantly lying, not lack of candor, lying. Now, his conduct was so bad that he's now facing a criminal investigation over his actions, as are other deep state upper echelon, not rank and file in the FBI. Now, the bottom line is Andrew McCabe is a known liar, but that's not stopping CBS News from giving him a huge platform to hawk his brand new anti-Trump book. But a lot of revelations in here that should scare the living daylights out of anybody that believes in the rule of law and our Constitution. Take a look.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
Maybe, I think so. I thought when we dealt with the rule of law, we needed something called evidence. And of course, they have no evidence of collusion. Look at the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee this week. They said they have no evidence after 2 years of any collusion. Now look on your screen. Top FBI lawyer who worked for McCabe, Lisa Page. And of course, you can add James Comey and others in this upper echelon of the FBI. Lisa Page admitting, in fact, in 2016 and 17, along with Comey, that in fact, after 9 months when they investigated, before the appointment of the special counsel, they had nothing. Still, McCabe has always peddled in the Trump-Russia conspiracy theories, just like fake news. However, this next revelation from McCabe's interview is much, much more alarming. Take a look at this.
There were meetings at the Justice Department in which it was discussed whether the vice president and a majority of the cabinet could be brought together to remove the president of the United States under the 25th Amendment. This was not perceived to be a joke. It was also said at a previous time that the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, offered to wear a wire into the White House to record potentially incriminating conversations with the president. A statement was released after that was never serious, it was sarcastic, etc. McCabe, in our interview, says no. It came up more than once, and it was so serious that he took it to the lawyers at the FBI to discuss it.
All right, they have it. More confirmation. Now, understand, they didn't like, their favorite candidate was Hillary. They never liked Trump. But more evidence, we have high-ranking members, the highest in the FBI and the Department of Justice, discussing how to override the will of the American people, first to influence the election, and by the way, keep a candidate that should have been charged in the race, and then remove a duly elected president from office because they didn't want him to win, and they had an insurance policy. Now, this would sound insane if it wasn't true. Now, remember months ago, we first reported this deep state conspiracy to oust the president, a silent coup. At the time, the deputy AG, Rod Rosenstein, remember, he first denied, we never talked about wearing a wire, said it never took place. And he said, they were just merely joking when he offered to wear a wire. Then later he changed the story again, saying, I never actually ordered the surveillance, so all's good, right, Rod? Now, sadly, the high-level DOJ, FBI discussions to secretly surveil, remove a duly elected president from office, that's only a tiny tip of the iceberg in this abuse of power corruption scandal and what has been a years-long efforts to rig the system, upend the will of the American people. That is the danger tonight. Look at this timeline. Let's start July 15, 2015. That's when the FBI opened up a criminal investigation into Hillary Clinton. Why? Mishandling top secret, classified, and special access programming information that was on a mom and pop shop bathroom closet server that they even believe was hacked by 6 foreign intelligence agencies. On May 2nd, 2016, Comey, the FBI director, and the all-important Peter Strzok, they were drafting a letter exonerating Hillary Clinton of any wrongdoing, which, by the way, Comey denied. We know it's true. It wasn't until 2 months later in July that Hillary and 17 others were finally interviewed by the FBI. Then only 3 days later, because they were writing the exoneration before investigation, and by the way, the person that did the investigation is Peter Strzok, then Comey had his big announcement. Remember, because the Attorney General at the time couldn't do it, that would be Loretta Lynch. Loretta Lynch met on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, and he cleared Hillary of all charges despite Comey for nearly 14 minutes, citing overwhelming evidence of criminal negligence and obstruction of justice, violation of the Espionage Act, felony. On top of that, then it got into, deleting subpoenaed emails, acid washing with bleach bit, then busting things up with devices, removing SIM cards. Clinton gets off scot-free. She was the favored candidate. The person that interviewed her, Peter Strzok, remember, he said Clinton deserved to win $100 million to zero. Remember, he and the exchanges with his girlfriend, Lisa Page, Trump is loathsome, attacking Trump supporters. Remember, we're all the smelly people of Walmart. He could smell us. The fix was in. She should have been charged. She got away with things no American would ever get away with. Mishandling top secret intelligence, putting it on an outside server, clearly a violation of felony of the Espionage Act, and she obstructed justice by destroying those subpoenaed emails and then everything else that we know followed. And, of course, destroying the phones with a hammer. Meanwhile, in July, again, we're still in 2016, the very same month Clinton was exonerated, immediately thereafter, the people that saved her political career and kept her in the game because the fix was in, because they favored her over Donald Trump, those same people, Comey, Strzok, and company, they decided to open up an investigation into the Trump campaign. 1 month later, in August of 2016, Peter Strzok texting his FBI girlfriend, Lisa Page, that it was an insurance policy against Trump in the likely event Donald Trump wins. Now, the basis of the investigation appears to center around Hillary's bought and paid for dirty Russian dossier. In other words, a piece of campaign op research with funneled money through a law firm, bought and paid for by the Hillary campaign, put together by the op research group that used the lawyer's money legal money to then go ahead and hire a foreign agent. I thought they weren't supposed to be involved in elections. That's Christopher Steele. He uses phony Russian sources, with the help of a woman named Nellie Orr. Nellie just so happened to be married to the 4th highest ranking official in the DOJ, Bruce Orr. And then he's been demoted twice. In late August 2016, Bruce Orr presented the campaign op research to the top upper echelon of the FBI and the DOJ. And guess who else? Andrew McCabe and Andrew Weissman. Yeah, the pit bull of Robert Mueller, warning them that the source was tainted. Christopher Steele hated Donald Trump, and he was being paid by the Clinton campaign. She paid for it all. Nevertheless, in the summer of 2016, the FBI used the information on the dossier in an application for a FISA warrant to spy on an associate of the Trump campaign, never, ever telling the FISA court in their application Hillary paid for it, and never telling the FISA court that it's unverified and never corroborated. In fact, that dossier, with some circular reporting they pushed around, based on what source? It was the bulk of the evidence used in all 4 FISA warrants and the 3 subsequent renewals. Now, the FISA court judges, well, they were never warned of the evidence. They withheld important information that Hillary paid for it, the DNC paid for it. It never was verified. None of that. James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates, all of them signing off on the FISA application. Well, that would be called committing a fraud or conspiracy to commit a fraud on a court. That'd be lying. That's a felony. Well, Comey and his cohorts were in the FISA court, and you had other deep state officials before the election leaking the dossier to anyone and everyone in the lead-up using Russian lies to influence people's votes. Wow, sounds like collusion. And then in the fall of 2016, Obama's CIA chief, John Brennan, and Comey's general counsel, James Baker, they were both accused of leaking the phony Russian lies in the dossier. And just after the election, Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, he leaked the dossier to fake news CNN and then lied about that under oath. And then on May 9th, 2017, President Trump rightly, thankfully, fires James Comey. Right after that, the disgraced former FBI director leaked private memos surrounding his conversations with the president in the hopes that it would lead to a special counsel investigation. Wow. Is this the United States of America? Take a look at this.
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
Oh, government information. You're not allowed to leak that. Where's that investigation? Where's the pre-dawn raid at Comey's house? And as it turns out, on May 17, 2017, it did prompt the appointment of a special counsel. Any evidence? None. How do we know? Lisa Page and so many others told us so. Rod Rosenstein, who was actively plotting a way to secretly surveil the president and put a bug on him, well, was appointed by James Comey's good friend Robert Mueller. Mueller hired a team of anti-Trump, pro-Clinton zealots to investigate the Trump campaign. Not a single Republican, including Hillary Clinton's lawyer, as it relates to the Clinton Foundation. Andrew Weissman was at Hillary Clinton's election night party, probably sobbing with everyone else there. Jeannie Ray, a former lawyer of the Clintons. Peter Strzok said the Clintons should win $100 million to zero. And many others made tens of thousands of dollars in donations only to Democrats, including Hillary, Barack Obama. 0 people on Mueller's staff are Republicans. 0. So while Hillary got treated to a polite interview 2 months after she had already been exonerated, well, no other individuals were ever charged. None. Trump campaign, much different treatment. Dual justice, not under the law. That's a banana republic. That's not a constitutional republic. Search warrants, perjury traps, secret surveillance, pre-dawn raids, lying to FISA courts to get warrants, dozens of heavily armed agents accompanied by armored vehicles, frogmen, amphibious vehicles. For what? Lying to Congress when we have all the Democrats on record lying to Congress. No evidence of collusion. Oh, we learned that this week from the Senate Intelligence Committee that now looked into this, Democrats and Republicans, for 2 years. Now, in fact, that's what happened. Now, today, the witch hunt rages on, all while 2 actual real examples of collusion go totally and completely ignored by the deep state. Now, we all know Hillary Clinton bought and paid for the Russian lies in the Steele dossier. Her campaign funded Christopher Steele, who hates Donald Trump, to dig up those Russian lies. You know, hookers urinating on beds in Moscow in Donald Trump's room. False. Then they leaked the findings in order to influence the election. Russian lies leaked to the American people. And Hillary investigation, no collusion. Next real example of collusion. Remember the Uranium One deal? Hillary Clinton signed off on the idea of giving 20%, this is the foundation of America's nuclear material, uranium, to a Russian state-run company. Wow. And at the same time, Bill Clinton goes to Russia, gets 3 times his normal speaking fees, and he wants to meet with the nuclear representatives of Russia. But instead, he couldn't meet with them because he was too busy meeting with Putin himself. You can't make this up. After the deal, millions of dollars in cash make its way into the Clinton Foundation, including Ian Telfer. He's the chairman of Uranium One. Total, 9 individuals connected to Uranium One, sent a combined $145 million to the Clinton Foundation over this time period between 2009 and 2013. By the way, we had a spy, William Campbell, inside of Putin's network in the Uranium One deal, and he chronicled bribery, extortion, kickbacks, and money laundering. They knew it, and they still let it happen. And during the same time frame, we know what happened with Bill Clinton. We know about meeting with Putin. We know about everything here. Then we learned from the Hill's John Solomon, the FBI uncovered a Russian bribery plot. That's when we talk about the uranium deal. Bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering, yes, and a relationship and a meeting with Bill Clinton and Vladimir. Where's the Clinton collusion investigation into Uranium One? The $145 million. That's right. We don't live in a constitutional republic anymore, do we? We have a two-tier justice system. One set of rules for Democrats and the Clintons, one set of rules, political persecution for anybody and everybody that likes Donald Trump. Pre-dawn raids, 27 people for process crimes, amphibious vehicles, frogs, artillery, full SWAT gear, armed pre-dawn raids. Why? Because Hillary was the chosen one. She's the one they saved from getting indicted. They never wanted Donald Trump to become president. They think that they know better than you, we, the people. Think about that. And they abuse their power to favor their candidate over another. They spread misinformation, Russian lies, and did not apply the law equally. No equal justice, no equal application of our laws. And they even plotted and schemed to remove a duly elected president from office because they didn't like him or want him to win. And they used Hillary's bought and paid for Russian lies as their roadmap. They wanted to screw over the will of the American people. And so far, it seems like they're getting away with it. We have a new attorney general. Hopefully that will change. My sources telling me tonight things are happening as we speak. Tonight, 3 of so many deep state actors that need to be held accountable. James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, likely all committed a conspiracy to lie to a FISA court. That's right, fraud before a court to get a warrant to deny a fellow American of their constitutional liberties. James Comey also seems to be needing an investigation for a serious crime when he intentionally leaked his FBI memos, government property, about his conversations with the president to get the special counsel. When it comes to federal abuse of power, Comey, McCabe, Strzok were all fired. Page forced to resign in shame. Broussard demoted twice. All used their positions, their high positions in government, to persecute those they disagreed with politically. And don't forget about lying to the FBI. After all, that crime shouldn't only apply to American war heroes like General Flynn. After you brag about, oh, we wouldn't do this in the Obama administration, and then having Andrew McCabe say, you don't need a lawyer, when he really did need one. And don't forget about also, in all of this, the illicit leaking. Baker, Brennan, Steele, Clapper. When are they going to be held accountable? Now, over the next year, with a brand new Attorney General, William Barr, this country, we've got to decide. You want to save the United States? You want to be a constitutional republic? You want equal justice under the law? Do you want a dual justice system? Or do you want America to be handed off to your kids and grandkids as a banana republic? That's the choice that America is facing tonight, because a small group of very powerful, high-ranking, unelected officials obviously were able to yield so much power over this country, our lives, and your decisions and your choices at the ballot box. That's what happened. That's why every American needs to be concerned. We'll get to this issue of the border and the president in a minute. Joining us now, former attorney to President Trump, John Dowd, and Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. John Dowd, let's start with you. Am I wrong on anything?
Oh, you're right on the money, Sean. Right on the money. We're looking at the tip of a coup. They were trying to take this president down.
They're trying to take him down. And you said, why is Robert Mueller allowing this?
I don't know, except that I think he's part of the problem. At the beginning, he was Rosenstein. They all pulled together, and they all wanted to take the president down. There's no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
Bob Mueller broke his word to me.
Yep. Keep going.
Bob Mueller broke his word to me that he would get the job done if we gave him all the information. We gave him all the information. He found it all to be solid and honest and nothing missing. And then he's dragged his feet for another year. And it's a disgrace. And the only effect of that stalling is to hurt this president and to back him off.
How he's been able to be so
work.
successful is a miracle.
And we're
Jim Jordan?
seeing why it was hatched.
Yeah.
Jim.
Sean, our system of justice is built on the truth. So many people involved in this have not been truthful in my judgment, but most of all, Andy McCabe lied 3 times under oath, faces a criminal referral from the Inspector General, fired. This is Andy McCabe, and he's also under investigation by the Justice Department as we speak. Andy McCabe, the ringleader in that critical 8 days. This is so important. The 8 days in May between the date that Comey was fired and the date then that Robert Mueller was named special counsel. During that critical 8 days, all the top people, Baker, McCabe, Strzok, Page, were plotting ways to go after this president. That is what's most alarming, and that's why it's most important that we get Andy McCabe under oath in front of our committee to answer our questions
What about all
of
these
this.
other players, Jim? What about them? What about Comey? How many of these people do you believe broke the law?
Here are the 2 most important. Rod Rosenstein, Andy McCabe. Andy McCabe can't be trusted. But here's what's interesting, Sean. He's now the 3rd person who has told us that Rod Rosenstein was serious about removing the president from office, serious about wearing a wire, recording the commander-in-chief in the Oval Office, serious about using the 25th Amendment to remove the guy we all elected president of the United States. That was Rod Rosenstein.
Wait a minute.
That conversation
These
happened
guys all
in those
work for
critical 8
Comey.
days.
What about Comey's role specifically in all of this, Congressman?
Jim Comey, too. But right now we have 2 guys saying 2 different things. We got Rod Rosenstein and Andy McCabe saying 2 different things. We need both of those guys under oath in front of a committee where we can this is how our system works, where we can ask them questions and we can evaluate who's lying and who's not.
James
Those
Comey,
are the 2 most important witnesses.
James Comey signed on to the first FISA warrant, October 2016. James Comey went to Trump Tower in January 2017 and said it's salacious, the dossier, but it's unverified. The bulk of information was the dossier. He lied to the president-elect, or he lied to the FISA court, and didn't all of them consciously lie to the FISA court because they didn't verify it?
All true, Sean. I'm not disputing any of that. But here's what we know. Rod Rosenstein said he didn't say that he was trying to invoke the 25th Amendment, actively pursuing removing the president from office. Andy McCabe and 2 other people who we've deposed in the Judiciary Committee say that he did. I want those 2 guys in front of our committee under oath. Instead, what's Elijah Cummings doing? Elijah Cummings is bringing in Michael Cohen instead of bringing the 2 guys that we need to have in front of our committee.
John Dove.
Sean, what we need is a special federal grand jury instituted by the Attorney General and appointed the toughest prosecutor he can find, and you call them all in. I'm sorry, Congressman, but the committees of the Congress have completely failed us. They haven't followed up. They only work 3 days a week. You need a grand jury running 7 days a week to pull all this down and all together. No more Inspector General. No more kicking it down the road. And you can get this thing done in no time.
All right.
I'm always...
Country's at stake. All right. A mini monologue. President, national emergency. I told you this would happen. I'll explain it all the behind the scenes coming up. All right, we're going to get back to this bombshell abuse of power corruption in just a minute. First, we begin Hannity Watch on, of course, the borders and our border promise and the president's promise to secure the border, because moments ago, after the Senate House followed through, they passed a spending bill to avert the government shutdown. As the White House explained today, the president will sign this deal, but he will be declaring, probably tomorrow, simultaneously a national emergency. That will allow him to redirect funds to construct barriers along our southern border. Now, look, part of this whole saga is that Republicans, sadly, are weak. Democrats want open borders. To me, this bill is nothing but garbage. It is a swamp sewer bill. It has just a mere $1.375 billion for barriers. It comes with a host of restrictions of what can be built and where. This bill gives local mayors the effective veto over it, and it also slashes detention space. And get this, as the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn notes, it provides, quote, a de facto sanctuary for anyone with an unaccompanied minor, potentially providing a safe haven for violent gang members So, as I called it from the beginning, it's a garbage swamp bill. The president also knows this. I'm going to give you the behind the scenes in a minute. Like I've also said, I don't really in the end care if the president signs this bill. I don't like it. But the president gets the money because only that he follows through on making sure that we once and for all in this country secure the border. This is our opportunity, now or never. So for those of you that are mad, I fully understand. Now we know that he's going to get the wall built by taking lawful actions. And as my sources confirmed, and this is the behind the scenes that nobody else is going to report, one of the main reasons that the president is supporting this horrible bill is because weak Republicans in the Senate behind the scenes were afraid of the president using emergency measures. So they made a deal that the president signs this bad bill, they would support his emergency actions that'll happen tomorrow, and that also includes anywhere between $900 million and up to $10 billion that he has the authority to redirect and use for the border wall. So the president is fighting for safety, security. This is life and death. Democrats, they aren't fighting for anything. And also Nancy Pelosi threatening, oh, we'll have a future gun national emergency. Nice try, Nancy. We both know that an emergency declaration like that would usurp the power of the Constitution would never fly. Good try. And by the way, how did you ever become Speaker with a reckless remark like that? Now, we know what's going to happen next. Democrats will go forum shopping, judge shopping, run into a place in California, Oregon, Hawaii that gets them. They'll get their win. They'll get to the Ninth Circuit. They'll probably win there. They'll get an injunction. But because it's an emergency bill and it deals with constitutional issues like, oh, the president's power as commander-in-chief and separation of powers. We also have laws that have been passed that saying the president of the United States has the authority to build barriers when there is drugs coming into this country. Those words, as we put up on the screen the last few nights, are there. In front of the Supreme Court, assuming they follow the Constitution, the law as it's written, the president is on solid legal ground under the 1976 National Emergencies Act. By the way, you may not know this, there are dozens right now of active emergencies, about 30 of them in effect today, dating back to the Carter administration. But who cares what lawful road the president takes when it comes to upholding his constitutional oath? This is about drugs, drug cartels. This is about human trafficking, young girls being sex trafficked. This is about the homicide numbers we give you. This is about the sexual assaults, the violent assaults. Look at the big picture. President has faced an unprecedented amount of obstruction from Democrats, from the media, and weak people in his own party. But he's fighting hard to keep the promise. Ask yourself this. What promise has he not kept up to this point? He's governing as a conservative. I told you he would. The American people are with him on the borders. So tomorrow, the president is going to allocate probably anywhere between $900 million to $10 billion, and he's going to go it alone like he always has to. Why? Because to the Democrats, this is just a cheap political game. They want open borders. Remember, there's no amnesty. There's no path to citizenship in this bill. There's no elimination of ICE, which the Democrats want. It's about life and death. Joining us now for reaction, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, Fox News contributor Dan Bongino. You know, are we really going to give local Democrats veto power over the president of the United States, Dan? Republicans can't do better than that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with you first. Your premise that the bill is a steaming pile of horse crap is pretty much spot on. This Section 224, Sean, prevents the DHS secretary from deporting, removing, or even referring for removal basically anyone that brings a child into this country. Now, Sean, what do you think that's going to do? It's going to incentivize a bunch of people to grab some children and take them across this dangerous journey in the desert. But that brings up my second point, that how do you negotiate with a party, the Democrats, that have given up on America? They've given up on borders. They've given up on the economy. They've even given up on capitalism.
They supported this in Obama's second term. They supported all of this. Now they just want to hate Trump. The problem, Andy, to me, is the Republicans that were afraid of the emergency resolution, and the president has to make a bad deal because of his own party.
Yeah, absolutely right. Look, we've got people who don't believe he has the authority, which Congress has delegated to him. So he has the authority. I think when you talk about Section 284, that is the cleanest way for him to get access to several $billion. because it's an active drug trafficking corridor. And we know it's true because just in Arizona, 40% of drugs interdicted in this country come in that corridor, in a small corridor in Arizona. We know it's a real deal. And he has access to billions of dollars, and I think he's going to use it, and he's going to use it wisely. And I think the courts are going to have a tough time saying that he does not have 284 authority.
Okay, so Dan Bongino, here's how I see it. So as bad as the bill is, the one good thing is while he will fight the predictable fight when the Democrats go judge shopping, he now has an additional $1.375 to keep building the wall in the process. And secondly, he's going to reallocate those funds, which other presidents have done as well. And let's say it goes to $7 or $8 billion, or even if it's just $1 billion, that keeps the process going ahead of time. Is that, in the end, the president getting the wall done and showing the American people that he's fighting to get his promise accomplished, just like tax cuts, just like trade deals, just like Supreme Court justices, you know, and everything else that he's kept his promise on? Isn't that going to matter in the end, that he gets it done?
Yeah, of course, Sean. And think about the optics here. Do you really want to be the Democrats going to court to fight the construction of a border wall on the southern border as all these images of caravans forming are on the nightly news every night? You really want to fight that court case in front of the American people right now?
Yeah,
Good luck. I thought the
Senate?
Democrats were smarter than that, but they're not.
Yeah. Well, Andy, last word.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is a dumpster fire of a bill, but I think the president's going to pull this out by declaring and using the money that we've given him.
All right. That could be, again, anywhere between $900 million and $10 billion immediately, and 1.375, and he fights for the emergency money, which I think he wins in the end. That is somebody not yielding on a promise. I can't say as much for some of these Senate Democrats. Pretty pathetic. Senate Republicans, pretty pathetic. All right, when we get back, our top story, we go back. Andy McCabe forced to testify, will he, under oath about his outrageous behavior. Catherine Herridge has the very latest as we continue on this big breaking news night. All right, back to our big story of the day. Bombshell claims by former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Questions are really being asked about the future of outgoing Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and so many others. Catherine Herridge with a full report. Catherine, this is huge. A lot of us have been right from the beginning.
Well, that's right, Sean. Good evening. Tonight, the chairman of the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee tells Fox News that he has not ruled out a subpoena to compel testimony from Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, and he also wants to hear from former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Senator Graham is focused on May 2017. As Fox News first reported, all of this went down in the 8 days after President Trump fired FBI Director James Comey. Graham wants more information from McCabe and Rosenstein about the special counsel appointment, as well as removing the president.
Would you subpoena Rod Rosenstein if he doesn't agree to testify?
Yeah, I'd like to know what happened. I mean, you're having a conversation about whether or not you're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. So I would imagine if the shoe were on the other foot, my Democratic colleagues would want to know about that conversation if it involved a Democrat. Absolutely, I want to hear from him at an appropriate time.
Rosenstein was at the White House today for what was described to reporters as a previously scheduled meeting. Those close to Rosenstein say he only has expected to stay in the job a few weeks after the new attorney